Hello, and a warm welcome to today's Home Fun webinar. Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are in the world. I'm currently based in Madrid in Spain, and my name is Stuart Finney, and I'm here with
Sarah Ellis, and I'm here in Italy. I work for Cambridge Assessment English. So welcome and good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And I'm sure this isn't the first time for lots of you today. If it is your first time, welcome. If it's not your first time, welcome back. And you will know that before we hand over to our guest speaker today, Jane Ritter, Sarah and I will just talk you through a couple of resources and a bit of housekeeping before we get started and while we're waiting for everybody else to join us. So today you can see the Home Fun webinar is called We're All at Home, but You're Not Alone. And for those of you who are new to these are focusing on teachers who are preparing young learners or primary students for the Cambridge Young Learner exams, the pre-A1 starters, A1 movers and A2 flyers. But equally, lots of the activities you see here today can be used in more general English lessons with young learners. And of course, we are particularly focusing on those of you who are teaching classes remotely from your home or in an online platform such as this or Zoom or something like that. This is the fourth webinar. If you've missed the previous three webinars, then the handouts that we share with you at the end of the session today include links to the recordings plus the handouts for each of the earlier webinars. We have this webinar today, and then we have our final webinar in the Home Fun series tomorrow, and we will speak a bit more about this at the end of the webinar today.
And just a couple of tips to get the best out of the webinar. Of course, we'd like to invite you to write in the chat. And as some of you already are, so on the right-hand side, we'd love you to tell us where you're watching from today. It would be very nice so we can feel a bit closer to you. And if you have any issues with connectivity, the best thing you can do is to press the refresh button that you can see at the top of the screen. This will take you out of the video and then bring you straight back in again and hopefully improve the connection if you're having a problem. And one of the things to say that while we're getting ready is just to tell you about where you can get some of the resources. And on the Cambridge Assessment English website, there's this special section called Supporting Every Teacher, as you can see. There's the QR code, if we're perhaps in the way, Stuart, for the QR code.
Oh, yes. Let me move us out of the way quickly. Where do I put us? Let's go up here.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. And
QR code down here.
Perfect. And that will take you directly to the website where you'll find lots of resources connected to the Young Learner tests that Stuart just mentioned. So pre-A1 starters, A1 movers and A2 flyers. And you can find that under the exam section. But other resources, we'll tell you more about that later. But over to you, Stuart.
Great. Yep. And along with what Sarah's just said, don't forget to check out the Cambridge University Press website, which also is providing lots of support for teachers in the current climate, including blogs and articles and downloads. As we said, we'll come back to this a little bit later. The QR code is here. We will be giving you handouts at the end of this session today, and that handouts will also include all of the links from this, plus the links that Jane will use in her webinar. A couple of other things: certificates will be issued in a few days' time. It takes a few days, so please bear with us while you wait for those. And
and the links will be in the chat, so you'll be able to find the resources in the chat towards the end of the session.
That's right. Just to say, and we'll come back at the end and talk about this as well, but starting tomorrow is on Wednesday, is the Cambridge at Home experience, which is 3 days of short sessions and talks from a whole range of authors and speakers and experts in education, including Sarah.
Indeed, I'm on the second day, but we look forward to you joining. Right. Yes,
we'll come back and show you this and how you can find out more about this later at the end of today. So I'm going to hand you over to Sarah, who's going to introduce you all to our guest speaker for today, and then we'll turn off our cameras and Sarah and I will come back and join you all at the end. So I hope you have a great webinar. Sarah, over to you.
Well, thank you, Stuart. And it does give me great pleasure to introduce Jane Ritter. Jane has been teaching adults and young learners for over 20 years in Italy and in Hong Kong. She has extensive experience of Cambridge English qualifications at all levels, and she is an examiner and an examiner trainer, as an examiner and examiner trainer. She is also a teacher trainer for CELTA and Delta courses, and she's been involved in several teacher training development programs in Italy and in other parts of the world. She is, of course, the author of the Home Fun booklets for the movers levels, as well as other materials and resources for Cambridge University Press. In her free time, she runs around with her 2 boys and Minnie the dog, and she enjoys cooking, wine, and lots of Italian things as she lives in Italy. But it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Jane. Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stuart. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all safe and well. Welcome to the webinar. Some of you may know me from the previous webinar, but for those of you that don't, my name is Jane, and I'm talking to you from Naples in Italy. Okay, here are 3 sentences and pictures that refer to my life. One of them is false. Just take a moment to read the sentences and write the false sentences, or false sentence, just one, in the chat. Okay. So the 3 sentences are: I've eaten Sakatort in Austria, I've been bungee jumping in New Zealand, and I've seen the sunset from a volcano in Sicily. Which one is false? The second, the volcano. Okay. It's not the second. I have been bungee jumping many, many moons ago, but I have done it. I won't do it again. Okay, the false sentence is number 1. Okay, where I live, there is a volcano, and there are lots of volcanoes in Sicily, and I love them. This photograph is actually from Stromboli, which is a little island in the south, in Sicily, and it's wonderful. Okay, so today we're going to look at some lesson ideas, okay, for you to use at home with your students, both offline, online, and at home. We're going to focus mainly on reading and writing activities, as it is something that we would encourage learners to do at home, but also in the classroom. And we'll be looking at materials and resources throughout. We're going to do this through mini lessons, and I'm going to show you how to use the resources and then where you can find them. Okay, so to begin with, as I said, we're focusing on reading and writing. Let's think about what your learners read. Okay, they obviously read their school books, but what other things do our primary learners read? Can you write some ideas in the chat? Okay, what do your learners read? School books, messages, oh here they come, comics, novels, games instructions, yes, very important. Posters, okay, this is going really, really fast. Okay, good. Messages, SMS messages, chats, blogs, great, excellent. Fantastic ideas, everyone. Thank you very much. Why read? Okay, why is it important to read? here are some very good reasons to read in a first language that are transferable to a second language. This is from Learning Links, an Australian learning support group, and they encourage reading from preschool age. Yep. Some fantastic reasons are coming through now. Yes, to explore, to learn new words, etc. If you just look at the slide for a moment, if a child reads or is read to for 20 minutes a day, they're exposed to 1.8 million words a year. Okay, and the potential future benefits show towards the end of primary school. Okay, there are so many fantastic reasons for reading coming through. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so what happens when we read? Reading tasks are on two levels, really. There's the word and sentence level, and the other is the text level. The text level, word and sentence levels build accuracy and confidence, and they require learners to be familiar with vocabulary and spelling. The text level involves meaning, content, and communication. As teachers, we work initially on the first level, the word sentence level, but we should encourage learners to consider the text as a whole. Okay. I'm going to show you a text on the next slide, and I want you to have a look and tell me, what is the problem? What's the problem here? Do you find this text easy to read? What's the problem with this text? Letters are scrambled, incoherent, spacing's wrong. Yep, this is an example of a wrongly spaced text. And a follow-up activity could be to ask the learners to write the text correctly. Then if you wanted to extend the activity further, you could ask them to finish the text. Okay. If you didn't want to focus on spacing, you could also present the text as one big word and ask the learners to separate the individual words and then rewrite it. Okay. Both ways of doing this get the learners thinking at word and sentence level. Okay. And as I said, you could ask them to rewrite. I wouldn't ask you, I wouldn't use this as an example with your primary learners, but this is hopefully to entertain you. So to continue the story, one day I was walking down the street when I saw an enormous crocodile which had escaped from the zoo. I took it to the policeman and he said, "Take it to the zoo." The next day I met the policeman and he said, "I thought I told you to take that crocodile to the zoo." I said I did, and he liked it very much. Today, I'm taking him to the cinema. Boom, boom. Okay. Very good. Okay, so thinking about what a good writer can do. Obviously, a good writer can decode words and they can produce them. But what other things can good writers do? Write your thoughts in the text box. The chat's coming through. I'm glad you like the story. Okay. What other things can good writers do? What the hell is that? Engage. Yep. Link ideas. Yep. Engage, inspire. Get attention of the readers. Great. Good content, correct grammar. Excellent. Some really, really excellent ideas. Convey the message, create stories. Be coherent. Lovely. Good. So yes, a good writer can make sentences, make paragraphs, punctuate, link ideas, use appropriate style and register, use appropriate organization, and use appropriate layout. And probably the most important thing that's missing from my link is be creative. Excellent feedback. Thank you, everybody. So now we're going to look at some activities that you can use with your classes. So I want you to be students for this part. Okay. I have a strange question for you. Okay. What is always coming but never arrives? Write your answer in the chat. What is always coming but never arrives? Great. Tomorrow. Excellent. Very good. The future, true. But yes, what is coming never arrives? Tomorrow. Another one for you. What comes once a day but leaves every morning? What comes once a day but leaves every morning? Night. Very good. Yes, it's night. Well done, everyone. Sometimes we can't see the moon if it's cloudy, so we don't see them once a day. These are examples of riddles. Okay, riddles can have different forms, like this one. I'm very large, but I look very small. When night falls, I am loved by all. What am I? It could be the moon. I'm very large, but I look very small. Yeah. Okay. Is a star. Star, star, star. Great. Great. Stars, stars. Yep. Okay. Now, have a look at these pictures. Okay. What words am I trying to elicit here? Okay. I've got some images and I want you to give me the words. What's the first one? Okay. Okay, we've got, yes, the first one is arm. The second is eye. Okay. The third one, yes, it is a bird, but I'm actually looking for parts of the body. So we've got arm, eye. What is it that a bird has that is different? Birds, how do they fly? What do they fly with? Okay. They fly with wings. Very good. Yes, very good. So we've got arm, eye, wings, and this word is not in order. It's another body part. Yeah, it's a horn. Okay, very good. Yes, a horn. Excellent. So, can you think of an animal that has arms, eyes, wings, and a horn? Can you think of an animal that has all these things? These cards come from the World of Fun website, and they're really great little cards. They're organized according to the vocabulary lists for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. Okay. It could be a unicorn. It could be a deer, a Pegasus, a rhino, a unicorn, great ideas, everyone. Fantastic. Dragons. It could be a dragon. I want you to watch this video and see if you're correct.
Piper. Am I a bat? I'm not a bird, but I can fly. I'm not an alien, but I've got 3 eyes. I'm not an octopus, but I've got pink arms. I'm not a monster, but I've got 5 horns. What am I? Yes, I'm a funny, silly bat.
Okay, so here we have Piper, and Piper is a bat. Okay, very good. It's a very simple story riddle for you to use with your students. There's a QR code that you can use to launch the video, or you can use the recording. Okay. It's a good way to model riddles, and maybe afterwards you could get your learners to write their own about different animals. Okay. When we started, I showed you some cards from the World of Fun website, but I also wanted to show you, or wanted to add, that there are these lovely cards from the Cambridge Assessment website. And here we've got the words that are organized in themes. Okay. There are images and written words, and you can use them to play snap or Pelmanism, memory, as some people like to call it, pairs, and many other games. Okay, you can share these students with your. You can share these cards with your student and ask them to print the themes that you need for your lessons. Okay, they're a great resource to have when you need to introduce or to revise vocabulary. When I'm normally teaching, I keep an envelope for each of my students in class, and their cards go in there, and we can pull them out if we need a 5-minute filler. Okay. Another activity that you can do using these cards is crazy sentences. Okay. So you can take 2 themes, okay, and take a card randomly from each of the themes and ask your students to make a sentence. It can be as crazy, as silly as you like. For example, I'm so sad. I've got sand in my ice cream. It's a bit sad. It's a bit silly. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you 2 other cards, and I'd like you to write your crazy sentences in the chat. Okay. It can be anything. Yeah. A crazy sentence using these 2 words. The sun was happy to eat cake. The sun melted my cake. Yes. Oh, it's too hot. The sun melted my piece of cake. Oh my gosh, it's going so fast I can't read. It's too hot to have cake. Never too hot to, oh, the sun melted my piece of cake. Great. Okay, so you can see this allows your students to be creative, and they can write anything that they want. Okay, there are also other mini cards that you can use. These are they're alphabet cards. I'm not sure if you can see them, but there are ideas and tips in my article in the handouts at the end, okay, for making mini cards. They're really useful resource, and even if our students are at home, we can actually send them and they can use them in class. Okay, so thinking back to Piper, I have another question for you. What do bats eat? The sun saw my delicious cake and wanted to eat. That's great. Okay, what do bats eat? Write some ideas in the chat. Fruit, insects, mice. Ooh, ooh. Okay, I have another Piper video. I want you to watch and check.
Piper's favourite food.
Some bats eat fruit. Ugh! And some bats eat insects. Ugh! But Piper eats cake. He loves chocolate cake, ice cream cake, strawberry cake, and birthday cake. Where's the cake?
Okay, so as you can see, Piper is a very special bat, and I think Piper and I would get on very well because I love cake. Okay, Piper is a very special bat, not only because he likes cake. He was invented by a student in Mexico. All the characters in Fun Skills come from a global competition, and Piper is one of them. Okay, learners from all over the world contributed, and this makes the characters probably more relevant to our learners because they have designed them. So we're working with their ideas rather than us imposing something on our learners. Okay, you can also, this should be in the handouts at the end. But as I said before, there's a QR code to launch the video if you don't feel like reading the story to them. Okay. And afterwards, you could get your students to draw a cake for Piper. I think I would probably draw him a nice sucker tort. Okay. Piper got my last bit of birthday cake. Okay. You could also write, you can obviously build on Piper and go on some adventures with Piper. Okay. Let's just recap on what we've done, because in a sense, we've just done a mini lesson. So starting, I introduced the theme. I introduced the theme of riddles and showed you various riddles. Okay. Then I presented or revised, depending on what your learners know, presented and revised vocabulary that they would actually need for the story. And then we read. Well, we didn't read this time, we watched, but you could get your learners to read if you didn't want to use the video. We watched a model riddle. Okay, and from that, as I said, you could get your learners to write their own riddles. Then we played crazy sentences, and then we looked at a follow-up story. Okay. As I mentioned, the cards are great practice for learners just to have confidence in handling the cards, and that would also help them when they go and do Starters Speaking Part 2. but you can actually use these activities with any level. Okay, let's move on and look at something that might be suitable for movers, but for any level really. Okay, let's go on an adventure. Okay, let's think. We're going on an adventure. Where are we going today? Can you write some ideas in the chat? Places that we would like to go on an adventure, not numbers, please. Okay, could you write ideas about where you would like to go on an event? The jungle, to the moon, not numbers, please. The jungle, the desert, the forest, Australia, great. Okay, so there are actually lots of places that we can take our learners to on an adventure. Very good ideas, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to show you an adventure story. I want you to take a moment to read it, okay, and tell me, where did Daisy go? Write the answer in the chat. Where did Daisy go? She went to the jungle. Yes, very good. Okay, now we have some titles for the stories. Okay, which title matches the story best? My Jungle Adventure. Very, very good. Very good. So here we're actually matching, we're working at text level. Okay, so we're thinking about the meaning of the whole text. Very good. Let's do another one. This is Jim. Okay, where did Jim go on his adventure? Where did Jim go? Yep, to the mountains. Very good. And so looking at the titles, which title would be best for this story? Okay, very good, everyone. Yes, yes, it is. It's C. Great, very good. Okay, so to follow up, learners could make their own adventure story. Okay, there are very, very simple instructions. Okay, so fold a sheet of paper in half, fold it in half again, use scissors to cut along the edges, and then draw pictures of your adventure story. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it. Okay, this is my trip to the moon. Okay, this is my rocket. I'm taking my bear. Okay, I'm not taking my sister. She doesn't like it there, and so on. So a tiny little booklet. You've given the learners a model and some ideas for adventure stories, and then they can, I'm not very good at drawing. Thank you for the compliment about the bear. I'm not very good at drawing, but I try. Give them some ideas, give them a model, and they can then create their own stories at home. Okay, so just reflecting again on what we've done. We set the contents through adventures. Okay, we did some reading, and students read and matched the titles to the stories. And then to follow up, giving them a model, they're able to make their own mini book. Okay, let's think about something a little bit more challenging for flyers. Okay, let's think about sequencing. Where do these words appear in a text? Which one comes first? Where do these words appear in a text, and which ones come first? Okay, yeah, first would be one day. Okay, and these, what are these words? Okay, where do these words appear in a text? Maybe at the beginning of a sentence or the beginning of a paragraph. Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures now. Okay, can you match the words to the pictures? So picture number 1, picture number 2, and picture number 3. Okay, yep. The first one will be one day, second, then, and finally. Great. Great work, everyone. Now we have some vocabulary. Okay. Can you match the word clouds to the pictures? For example, picture number 1. Great work, everyone. Really good. Okay. Picture number 1 is word cloud. It's the blue word cloud. Very good. Okay. So picture number 1, we can see the astronauts are exploring. They're on a new planet and they're excited. Okay. What about picture 2 and picture 3? Okay. Great. Yes, we've got picture number 2 is the red word cloud, and picture number 3 is the purple. Okay, really good work. Yes. So now our next step would be to ask the learners to write a story. Okay. This is an example of scaffolding and building a story. So helping learners to think about focus on linkers and sequencing, and then giving them some scaffolding through vocabulary so that they can build their own story. Okay, this is also really, really good practice for learners preparing for movers, reading and writing part 7, where they are given 3 pictures and they're asked to write a story. So here we're practicing the skills that they'll need to then go on and do that. Okay, there's also a really cool follow-up activity for learners to do at home. Okay, as we haven't been allowed out recently, it might be difficult to source ping pong or foam balls, but you can actually use anything you can find. Okay, for example, here I've got the earth that I made with my son. And as you can see, we just scrunched up a ball of newspaper and then we covered it in tissue paper and painted it. Yeah. Okay. You can use anything you can find. I actually found another planet in a toy box. So I've got Saturn. Okay. And what we're doing is every couple of days, we research a planet. Okay, we make it and write a few sentences about it, and slowly we will build our own solar system. Okay, you might even want to use an onion if you haven't got paper and paints. Okay, so let's just recap again. What did we do in that mini lesson? Okay, we revised linking language or linking words. Okay, then we read and matched. Okay, we then explored vocabulary for the story, and then we would have asked our learners to write the story. Okay, and then as a fun follow-up activity, making planets and building your own oranges are a good idea. Thank you, Maria. Making our own planets and thinking about our world or our solar system. Okay. So, to round up, encouraging reading and writing, I think, is really, really important. They're both very physical. Thinking about when learners begin to write, there is that whole mechanical learning and shaping, which is actually very, very tiring. Okay. And reading is very tangible because you're holding a book. So it's adding another element to a multisensory approach to learning and teaching. Reading and writing really help to consolidate language learned through other skills, and they allow for individual work and quiet time where students have to concentrate. I always encourage reading to help students who are not as vocal as others, so that they have other avenues for participating in class and other ways to express themselves. Okay. The printed word is really special, and students gain a lot of satisfaction from seeing a final written piece of work displayed or published if you're working with online platforms. And there's nothing more satisfying than seeing a book finished. Yeah. Okay. They also enable students to describe personal experiences and information. Okay. They can be collaborative, and they can be used as a settler. Okay. I'm just watching the chat. There have been some other fantastic suggestions for making planets, which I'll just quickly read out to you. Using plastic bottles, paper mache, Play-Doh. Really lovely ideas. I hope you've been reading the comments in the chat too, because they're really, really lovely. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay, just to round up, I have a comment or a quote from Mason Cooley, who is an American writer and aphorist. Okay, now I'm going to pass you back to Stuart and Sarah for a minute. Okay, but if you have any questions, could you begin to write them in the chat?
Great.
Thank you, Jane. That was great.
I'll be back in a moment.
Don't leave us. Great. So thank you very much, Jane, and I hope you all agree that that was a very productive session that we had today. Sarah and I are just going to walk you through some of the news, the updates, the resources that we have to share with you before we hand back to Jane at the end for some questions. So if you have a question, write it in now, and I hope my colleagues, and that's Fabio, Jenny and Paola, in the chat box will highlight those questions so that we can make sure we see them later when Jane returns.
Absolutely.
Jane's already mentioned Fun Skills to you today. Jane's one of the writers on this new course which prepares young learners or primary students for the Cambridge exams. That's the 3A1 starters, the A1 movers and the A2 flyers. Fun Skills is a 6-level course. So if you like what you've seen today, as well as the free downloads we've shared with you right now in the handouts, which you can get below on your screen. If you like what you see here, then do go along to the Fun Skills website, talk to your Cambridge University Press representative. Lots of info on the handouts for you and on our website about this course. As Jane said, the character you saw today, Piper, and all of his friends were all created by kids. So this is a really unique point about this course, that all of these characters were invented and created by children.
Yes, and just a couple of words about some of the resources. As Stuart says, we take this opportunity now while you're putting your questions in the chat box. Cambridge Assessment English has created this special support site for teachers so that you can find resources easily and quickly because they've all been put together. The QR code takes you there directly. And if you look at the top of the screen, you can also see exams and tests. And if you click on that part, you can actually go directly to information about the Young Learner test. So that's pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. If you want some more details about what's included in the test and some of the activities that you've been looking at with Jane, obviously will help you and prepare your students for those tests. And of course, the other resources that this connects you to are here in this amazing interactive PDF, and it's called Inspire. So when you find it, as you open it like a book, you'll see that you can click on different parts to find the resources, just one click away. And after the second page, next page after this one is actually dedicated to young learners, and there you will find the flashcards that Jane mentioned. You will also find lesson plans, other resources, the word lists, and also speaking videos which show you what happens in the speaking part of the Young Learner tests as well. And all of that's downloadable for free, and of course just gives you more support and activities to use with your teachers. And in that light, I'll pass over back to Stuart.
Yeah, well, more of the same, really, Sarah. Just to accompany all of the things that Sarah's shown you, if you go to our sort of sister organisation site, Cambridge University Press, equally you'll find lots of resources. We showed you some of this at the beginning, but just to remind you, or if you haven't seen it, lots of resources, articles, videos, all kinds of stuff available on here. Including the home booklets that you can see at the bottom of this example here. The home booklets, the Fun Skills home booklets, we've made 3 of the 6 levels. So three levels we've made available for free downloads to help accompany you at this time with your teaching. These are videos, stories, songs, puzzles, projects, things that you can use with children at home, in the classroom, or teaching them online. As you saw today, we're showing the videos online. Some of you are asking what a QR code is. If you have a telephone or an iPad or a tablet device, you just put the camera on, point it at the QR code, and your camera will pick out the web page and take you there.
Yes,
Okay?
so you just need to download an app, a little app, which you can get free. If you ask QR code reader, if you haven't already got one on your phone, it's very simple to download one.
Most phones have it automatically in the camera now, so you don't even need to do that.
There you go. Gets easier every day. And
it's easier every day. Yeah.
And probably worth mentioning that this is an amazing blog. Obviously, we've been talking about primary schools and children now, and there are lots of resources for those. But there are also lots of resources for other levels, and you'll find that the blog is updated very frequently, and you've got new articles. And one of the things I love about this blog is that you get the article and the information, but you also get the direct link that takes you to the material that they're referring to. So it's a really fantastic resource.
Lots of freebies, lots of goodies on both websites for you to take away. And on that note, as Sarah's just said, I mean, talking about today, we've very much focused on younger learners, mostly primary age. But if you're looking for more breadth, if you're teaching older students, teenagers, even adults, what you can see now, the Cambridge at Home experience will begin on Wednesday and run until Friday. And that includes 3 days of very prominent guest speakers, writers, authors, teacher trainers, and experts in education who will be giving short from 5 minutes up to longer 20, 30-minute sessions about all aspects of teaching. Sarah will be one of the speakers on Thursday morning, I think.
With my colleague, Donya. I'm speaking with my colleague, Donya, from
Fantastic.
Cambridge English in the UK. So, yeah.
The link for this is, well, it's just gone into, Paola's just put it into the chat box, but it's also on your handouts. So don't forget to download the handouts from the bottom here today. So lots and lots of resources for the current times. Some of you will also be familiar with websites such as our World of Fun, support website for teachers of primary, young learners, students. If you're not familiar with this, go to it now and you'll find lots of resources that can be used, again, offline in the classroom or online in the current circumstances that we're teaching in. Lots of stuff there. We've just put some new posters up which cover vocabulary for the pre-A1 starters, the A1 movers and the A2 flyers exams. Loads of videos, loads of older webinars, all kinds of stuff on there for you. I think Jane's got a few things on there. You got
I got an article, yes.
You got an article
on
there,
mini cards, yes.
On mini cards, that's
Yes.
right. So you can find Jane on there and all sorts of other stuff. So do have a look. Again, all the links are on your handouts. And just before we go back to Jane for the questions and answers, just to remind you, in this current series of home fun webinars for young learners of English, don't forget that tomorrow is the last one. That's gone quickly, hasn't it?
It has gone quickly.
And tomorrow, it's the last. We saved the best till last. We've got Jane, and we're joined again by Anne Robinson tomorrow. So we've got 2 speakers for the price of one, although they're both free, so that doesn't count. But come along tomorrow, same times, 1 in the morning or 1 at this time, morning from our where we are in Italy and Spain, or whatever time you came today will be the same tomorrow. Okay, so questions. Have you picked any up yet?
Yes, I have.
Great.
There was a question about how long to spend on sounds. And obviously, it does depend on the age that your learners are at or are. But I often, and I think you can see that when you look at Fun Skills as a book, lots of very short, fun activities that appear frequently. So not long lessons on phonics, but very, very short sounds. And perhaps if you wanted to explore that further, there is actually Monsi's webinar on using phonics, which is with Fun Skills as well. And that's a really nice webinar to go back and watch. There was a question about encouraging handwriting. And this varies from country to country. Some countries don't encourage younger learners to write until the 3rd grade. Others start from the start. So it's something very, very personal and local. I think it's much more important to get learners to recognize the sounds of the words because of the sound spelling relationship that we have in English, which is very different from other languages. There was a question about where can I find more stories, and I think I forgot to mention in the webinar that with the Home Fun booklets there are 6 or 7 stories that you can actually use with your learners, and as the handbooks are there for you to download and use, that's quite a lot of stories for you to work with. And then there are other stories in World of Fun and on the Cambridge Assessment website. So there's plenty of resources there for you.
Each of those stories as well, remember, has its own video, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So loads of stuff there.
Okay. There was a question about reading. Should I encourage readers? Should I ask my learners to buy readers? Yes. We've seen the benefits. Even 20 minutes a day, just a little bit of exposure to reading is really important. I can now see any links for listening activities. There are plenty of listening activities in the home booklets, in the Home Fun booklets, and the recordings are there available for you. There are also practice listening tests that you can download from the assessment website, and videos that you can watch, which obviously help to develop listening skills.
Yeah, and at the moment there's a special, if you look at Kahoot, you'll find some Kahoots to support the young learner test as well.
Yes.
Which has been designed specially. We had another question, Jane, about how long you would recommend lessons with young learners are. That's a difficult question, but what do you say about that?
It's also a very difficult question in this present moment because there is obviously concern about how long young learners spend online. I would probably suggest 20 minutes if you can, and maybe give them a chance to switch off and do some reading or writing and then come back to you, so that they're not spending all their lessons online. And obviously the thing that you need to factor in is the age of the learners. In a normal teaching context, I would say 50 minutes for 5 to 6 and 7-year-olds. And then as they get older, you can increase the length of a lesson up to an hour and a quarter. Okay. Even then, when you have a lesson that is an hour and a quarter, maybe include a water break, but also break the lesson up into small 15 to 20 minute activities so that you can keep the learners with you. Okay. Was there another question? There's a question. What to do with shy learners. And I think the shy learners are the ones that probably are watching you more than you think. Make them feel responsible. Give them a task. So if there is a writing project and they have lovely handwriting or they can draw, make them responsible for that area of the work. Factor them in the activities that you prepare for your classes. So a shyer, more reticent learner might not want to speak as much. They might feel more comfortable with pair work or group work. Certainly don't put them up in front of the class and ask them questions on the spot. But factor that in when you are preparing activities. And obviously reading and writing are preferred learning activities for those kinds of learners.
There's a question here about what do we do if young learners don't have access to the internet? I don't know if you've got anything to say on that, Jane. I can just start by saying, I mean, when we put these ideas together for this series, we did have that in mind, that not everybody is able to necessarily use an online platform for teaching, but they might be at home nevertheless. And materials could be still provided that could be used at home, such as the home booklets that we've made available to download, which were originally intended for parents to use with learners to try and connect to the English learning space.
Exactly.
I don't know if you have any more to say on that.
Well, the handouts that Anne and I have been preparing, when we prepare them, we're obviously preparing that for a class that's not online. So those materials and activities are just as relevant for preparation, for exploring vocabulary, reading and writing, but they're designed for people that are at home.
And with parents who don't necessarily have a very proficient level of English themselves. So lots of great stuff.
Very simple instructions.
Yes, lots of support.
So download that. You'll find word puzzles, little fun boost mini projects, which can be done with most household.
We'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Okay, well, we won't ruin that. But come back tomorrow for more ideas on that.
Yes, great.
Right.
I can't see any other questions. Can you?
I haven't picked any up.
No, I think we
managed
to do most of them. Yes.
Lots of thanks. So before we leave, just remember, if you haven't already, to download the handouts from the screen down here. Lots of links on there, lots of freebies, lots of goodies for you to try out with your classes. And don't forget to join us tomorrow for the double bubble of Jane and Anne.
And together.
And Sarah and I will be back as well, along with our team, who, let's thank again, that's Jenny, Fabio and Paola, who've been busy at work in the chat box today. I think that's it, right?
I think so.
Jane, same time tomorrow.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stuart.
See you all tomorrow.
And thank you, Jane.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.